Welcome, everyone, to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Thank you so much for listening. A little bonus Monday edition here for you. Usually podcast comes out Thursday morning, but it is the morning after the Super Bowl. Early in the morning, John Ourand from Puck and the Varsity Podcast, and a regular on this podcast, joins me to talk about Fox's telecast of the Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. So we get into everything, pregame, commercials, Brady, Burkhardt, and future Super Bowls, and a couple of other NFL media topics with John Ourand. So I'm not going to waste time. We'll get right into it. Just a reminder, please subscribe to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Very important if you subscribe, and also try to rate and review on Apple. And if you missed it, last week we had an All Trainer Thoughts edition with Sal Licata. Sal's not on this episode. He'll be on our regular Thursday episode. Troy Aikman was on the pod recently as well, so check that out. All right. Again, subscribe. Let's get to it. Little bonus SI Media with Jimmy Traina with John Ourand recapping Fox's coverage of the Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. All right here, right now on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right, joining me now, very grateful that he agreed to do this early on Monday morning post-Super Bowl from Puck and the Varsity Podcast, John Ourand. John, how you feeling this morning?
You know, it was a long week, Jimmy. I'm hoping my voice holds up for this for the entirety of this podcast.
Well, we'll go short and sweet and just talk about Fox, the broadcast, and some other NFL media items. Let's start. I'll just give you the floor here. Overall impressions of Fox's presentation of the Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. Good, bad, fine. What do you got?
Overall, I think it was a good presentation. I feel bad for Fox. I feel bad for any of the in a corporate sense. I feel bad, but for any Super Bowl broadcaster that has to have a blowout like that, the game was over at halftime, and then you're just trying to fill air a little bit. Fox's a crew. Especially the guys in the production truck, Brad Zager, the executive producer, has an excellent reputation. Eric Shanks is among the best that have ever done this. They always put on a really good professional show. I happen to watch a lot of the pregame show. I think the stuff that they did from Bourbon Street, they had their pregame show cast on Bourbon Street, and that was a really cool visual. I mean, the content is what you would expect from a pregame show. I don't think that set the world on fire or anything. And once, but it was. I just thought that it looked good. It really got some excitement going, getting into the game, and then the game happened, and it's just really hard to do it. What were your thoughts?
Well, one thing on the pregame show, I didn't watch most of it or any of it. I put the TV on at about 5:00, and I had the TV on with no sound on Fox at that point because I was watching something else on a different TV, but I just wanted to have it on in case. So you have to keep in mind, I'm watching this, there's no sound, and I look up, and I'm like, oh, I guess Jimmy Johnson's retiring. I didn't, and then I put the sound on, and Jimmy's crying on the stage, and then Kurt Menefee says, "Is this a retirement?" And he goes, "1 day at a time." So it's like, what just happened? So again, I wasn't.
That was a little bizarre. That was because you were waiting for the retirement announcement, because that was exactly what they had been leading up to, and it was almost like he got cold feet at the last minute because the question from Kurt, like you ask questions every week on this podcast, you know a leading question when you see it, and it seemed like, hey, do you have something to announce here? And there wasn't.
Yeah, and I would love to know. I mean, you'll never find out, but I mean, I was expecting Kurt Menefee to expect Jimmy to say, yes, he was retiring. Like it was, that made the whole thing even more bizarre. So, and then I guess, Fox. So I guess there were a lot of people out there like me who thought Jimmy Johnson was retiring, and Fox ended up, I know, telling some media people no retirement. And it's like, okay, well then 5 o'clock hour of the Super Bowl, you're running that piece? What?
Yeah, and the piece also was well, that whole retirement aspect of it, you're right, you're right. But then the AI nature of it, it's almost like they wanted to show off what they're able to do with artificial intelligence. And they were able to show him as a college player and as a young college coach, and all the way through. And so I as I was watching it before, I thought it was like heading into a retirement announcement. As I was watching it, it just seemed like, okay, this is what we can do with this new technology that's out there. But then when they came back to the set and he's in tears and Menifee's trying to lead him in, I was like, wait, I think we're about to get something here.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of, to answer your question, in terms of the game broadcast, I've said this all along now for several weeks. I'm so exhausted by the Brady stuff because it's every week. Everyone's got to analyze Brady. And the problem with Brady is that he's fine. He's not great. And he's not. I mean, a lot of people out there want to say he's terrible. He's not terrible.
He's not terrible.
There are so many people judging him unfairly because he's Tom Brady. He has 7 Super Bowls. He's making $375 million. He's not terrible. Like, you can't put him on a level of, Daryl Johnston or Mark Schlereth, who are on like the 5th and 6th crews. Like, that is ridiculous to say Brady's bad or he's terrible, but he's not great. He's not Greg Olsen. He's not Troy Aikman. He's fine.
What would you rank him in terms? Because I don't think anybody's comparing him to the 5th or 6th crews,
right?
And if he was on the 5th or 6th cruise, I don't think people would be so maniacal. But you have Troy Aikman on ESPN, Tony Romo, Chris Collinsworth, and Kirk Herbstreit. Is he within those?
I don't think he's near Troy. And I still am of the belief that Romo is very good. I think Romo brings more to the broadcast than Brady right now. That's the other thing in all this. It is still Tom's first year. Can we give him a little bit of a chance? It's like, no, he can't. He's making $375 million. Can't give him a chance.
He's making $37.5 million a year and usurped a really good booth. And you can't. Like there are too many storylines outside of his actual call of the game.
And for me, I don't judge my rankings of a booth based solely on the analyst. To me, it's the totality of the booth. So that's why I think Buck and Aikman are on a whole other level than everyone else, because it doesn't get talked about enough. But you listen to Joe Buck, the smoothness, the energy, the calls, the voice. Like Joe and Troy, I think, are on another level. And then I think for me, you say, who do you want to listen to? It would be probably Nance and Romo second. I don't think Burkhart and Brady would. I don't think they'd crack the top 4 for me. And again, the best guy out there is Olsen, and who the hell knows what's going to happen there. So, like with Tom,
by the way, that's never happened. I would submit to you in the history of Fox Sports and the NFL, which is going back about 30 years now. Could you envision like their broadcast team? You're saying like, oh, they wouldn't crack my top 4. That never would that have happened in the history of Fox Sports. That's significant unto itself. I mean, this is a group that really I can't say enough good things about the production and the executives at Fox Sports. They lost Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, who you think is the best booth out there, and they are. They're very, very good, and they didn't skip a beat. They brought in Burkhart, they brought in Olsen, didn't skip a beat, and because Fox is also very good, and they are able to do that, and it does feel like they skipped a beat, and it's his first season, and all this other stuff, but they did skip a beat.
They might be in my top 4. I don't know. I'd have to. maybe they're better than Aikman. I mean, better than Michaels and Herb Street. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like, for me, I always feel like Tom is too prepared, over prepared, holding back. Not, I think he's trying to be like an NFL broadcaster and not just a regular person. That's the impression I get.
Yeah, I think that we also have to somewhat figure out how he calls the games, because the people that don't like Romo's Romo. You know,
Right.
he brings an excitement. He sort of, he doesn't predict like he predicted at the beginning, but he still kind of predicts plays and what's going to happen, and he'll make some mistakes, but that's an excitement that CBS likes to have, that conveys out there. Chris Collinsworth is somebody that can take a 3-yard run and bring it back and talk on a like 50,000 foot level about how that 3-yard run is instrumental into this overall story arc of a game. I think Collinsworth is really good about doing that. Troy Aikman is I mean, you said it earlier yourself. He just is tactically understands the game and is able to take the analysis from his brain to his mouth and out to the viewer. And that's not always easy, as anybody listening to me right now probably knows. And like,
And even, I mean, this might get better over time, but even sort of like the little byplay between Burkhardt and Brady always seems to just not hit it right. There was a point in the Super Bowl where Tom tried to make a joke about Kevin Hart. Did you hear that?
And by the way, that Netflix special that he was referencing was a massive success, but it was seen by what? I like 40 million, 50 million. I don't know what the number is off my head. A fraction of the number that we're watching. I was thinking about the poor people that are like, why is he going after Kevin Hart now?
Well, even
knew nothing about the Tom Brady roast.
Yeah, so he tried to make like a height joke about Kevin Hart and Burkhardt. The vibe I got at the beginning was like Burkhardt didn't maybe know the reference, but then he caught on. But then Tom wouldn't even say the roast. Tom's like, well, he got me pretty good back in May. Like the whole byplay was bizarre between them. It just doesn't feel natural. But again, they've only been together for a season. But listen, I think you said it before. And I'm writing a column for SI.com for Monday that people can read it by the time this goes up, probably. I can't judge them on anything in the second half. The Chiefs got the ball to start the second half. They didn't score. That was it. Lights out. The game was over. And you got to be careful of like getting narratives from Twitter. But I couldn't believe all the people on Twitter referencing 28-3 and thinking that was going to happen again. Did you watch the Eagles defense? Like there was no chance the Chiefs were coming back when the defensive line for Philadelphia was in Mahomes' face on every single down. So that was stupid. That the game was over when the Chiefs started the second half and did not score. That for me. So I'm not going to judge Tom and Kevin on whatever happened in the second half because the game they had nothing there to break down. What I want from an analyst, what I judge these guys on the most, well, the number one thing is, do you annoy me? And the second thing is,
that's a big number one thing. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's why I don't mention Chris Collinsworth when you ask me for my favorites.
I like Collinsworth. He doesn't. A
lot of people do. I'm in the minority. Yeah, I'm in the minority, but not every player is great. So it gets a little tiresome after a while. I mean, I will never forget, as long as I live, the Jets-Chiefs game 2 years ago when he basically had Zach Wilson in the Hall of Fame. So I get annoyed by that. But what I want from an analyst is when it's close late, the tactical stuff, the timeouts, the clock management. What do you run here? Should you run? Should you pass? How are you burning? That's where Olsen blows everyone out of the water.
And that's
but
also,
they didn't get that in this.
Brady has been very good this year. Like
right.
When he's describing a 2-minute drill and he just sort of starts to get in on that, like he's done 1 billion 2-minute drills in his career. And so that I find to be really interesting. What I think is difficult is, you mentioned social media, and I was looking on there, and people are like, he talks about his playing career too much, and people are saying he doesn't talk
Right.
about his playing career too much. The one thing that I have one takeaway. The Eagles were up. I have more than one takeaway, but one takeaway
Yeah.
is the Eagles were up 24-0 going into half. Who would you rather have in the booth at that moment than the quarterback that engineered the biggest comeback in NFL history, telling us stories about what that locker room was like, what happened, who was like banging the locker, who and there was nothing. He didn't
Right.
it was almost sort of he was still deciding whether the Eagles should run or pass with 10 seconds left in the half. It was it was a swing and a miss in my opinion.
I agree. And that's why I said earlier about Brady being judged unfairly. If he talks about his playing career, people bash him. If he's not talking about 28-3, people are bashing him. Meanwhile, if you think Fox hired him and gave him $375 million to not talk about his Hall of Fame all-time great playing career, you're an idiot.
Listen, Fox has been very clear that they would make that hire again. They've been on the record saying that he's going to come back despite the ownership of the Raiders and his sort of involvement with that team. And I have to say that I don't know anything about the Excel spreadsheets with the dollars and cents, but
Right.
it was a good hire for them. I mean, he brings and you could see it in the pregame show. He does bring an excitement to it, and the part of I do a weekly Brady meter, as you know, in the in my private email, and it's part of the reason I do it is just because it's Tom Brady, and he replaced a really good analyst, and let's just see how he progresses all season.
I thought he had a really, really good moment late first quarter. It was 7-0 Philly, but the game at that point was sloppy. It didn't really have a flow. Both teams were, the Chiefs especially, was slow. You had the two bad calls by the refs. And Brady started talking about how slow starts in the Super Bowl are expected. You're on a neutral field. There's no home field advantage. You're not, you have different mentality, home road. The game is a much longer game than any other game because of the halftime that's got to go for 40 minutes. And he talked about you playing a 4-hour and 15-minute game. So he said and I thought that was great insight that you get because of his experience there. That's more of that would be good.
Yeah. No, he certainly had moments. I do feel bad for him because he is a rookie broadcaster. Again, when I say I feel bad, it's it's a measure,
right? I know, right? Exactly.
But he's a rookie broadcaster, and there's a handful of people. I think you and I can probably tick off maybe 3, 4, or 5 who can be effective in a blowout. And that's where you really have to bring the John Madden type of John Madden is the greatest of all time, but bring his sort of like excitement level, or you get a storyteller in there, and like none of this fits in with where Tom Brady is right now.
Did you catch the moment late in the game? It was 34-6, and the Eagles had destroyed Mahomes, but they face masked him. There was no flag, and Tom went to Periera, and Periera was like, he basically was like annoyed that he got called on, gave like a one-word answer, and in the most low monotone sound. Did you catch that by any chance?
I didn't pick up on any annoyance with that. I think it like. I think
it was like
basically Brady was like, whatever, and Periera was like, that's a flag. That should have been a flag.
But he said it like, why are you bothering me right now? This basketball season, when your favorite stars score buckets, we're alley-ooping you an opportunity to win money from watching sports with Underdog. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? You can with Underdog. To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, points, assists, rebounds, blocks, and much more. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your hoops knowledge. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at the NBA and picking Luka Doncic for higher on basically all of his stats, but especially points, rebounds. I think Luka will be motivated after the big trade The narrative out there is that he's out of shape. He doesn't work hard. And I think that's going to push something in Luka. So I'm looking at him here on Underdog to go higher, especially points and rebounds. Download the Underdog app and sign up now using the promo code Sports Illustrated to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with the promo code Sports Illustrated. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. This is very inside media, and I think there's probably 10 of us who care about this. I don't think Fox has helped Brady by shielding him from people like us or any other interviewers or podcasters.
Brady,
they've only put him.
They had at the Super Bowl. They have an annual media day, and this Fox's media day was on Thursday, and that's where they roll out all of their executives and all of their talent. And who was not there? The number one broadcast team. They were on earlier on or the day before they had a press conference, which I know you were on. What was that like?
Well, it wasn't a press conference. It was a conference call.
Conference call. That's what I meant. Yeah.
No, so they didn't even put Tom on video.
Wait, that was all audio. The conference call.
All audio, and it was everyone asked Tom a bunch of questions, and everyone else, poor Kevin and Aaron and Rinaldi, and they got like one question each, and there were 50 questions for Tom on the phone. By the time they got around to me, they were like, "Oh, can we limit it to one question?" They played that game.
What was your question?
I asked him if he thought critics have been fair, and if he has read any of the, reviews of his broadcasts. And I asked him because when I did speak to him briefly on he was on this podcast, but only for like 10 minutes before the season. And I asked him what his biggest concern was going into the booth. He said he didn't want to be overly critical. And I asked him if he, how he felt he did in that area. So it was fine. But again, if you see Aikman, Collinsworth, they're out there doing interviews. Nance, they're like, here's the thing with Fox. They don't let Burkhardt do interviews because they don't want it to be about Brady. That's not going to help you. Like, you need to get Tom out there to show his personality, win over some viewers. There are so many people, there are so many football fans who don't like Tom Brady for the simple fact that he's Tom Brady. And he kicked their team's asses for 100 years and won all those Super Bowls. Get him out there. Let him show his personality. Let him have fun. He doesn't have to do my podcast. Put him on Part of My Take. Let him have a good time. Show the personality.
Yeah, he's had a lot of hits on the Colin Cowherd's show.
That does not count. That, as the great Bob Raceman from the Daily News would say, is a Twinkie munch. That does not count. So don't tell me about Colin Cowherd.
I don't know about Raceman's. What did you call it? A Twinkie munch?
Bob Raceman of the media critic for the Daily News, for his entire career, refers to softball interviews as a Twinkie munch. So, like, if I had, Derek Jeter on this podcast, he would call it a Twinkie munch, because I wouldn't ask any hard hitting questions.
Oh, like right.
Yeah. So Tom Brady going on FS1 does not count.
Yeah, I have a complaint with Jimmy Traina. I mean, because of you, I know Derek Jeter's middle name. I mean, it drives me batty. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. But that doesn't count. So maybe next year they'll. Now I also don't know how much.
That's the other funny thing is, like, Tom Brady. He does have a personality, and he has a look. He's the star quarterback of and the greatest quarterback of all time. He went to. I was in New Orleans this week, and he went into the Four Seasons bar with Joe Montana. And I got texted by like 3 different people, like because it was exciting. It was like, wow,
yeah.
He still has this sort of like just magnetism that's out there, and I do question why Fox decided to keep it under wraps as for the entire season, pretty much.
Yeah. Blowout game. Do you think it hurts the rating? You think they still set a record? What's your take on that?
Blowout game. I was predicting a record audience before the game because all Chiefs games are close. Because it was a blowout, almost certainly it won't set a record. But Nielsen they're always sort of changing the way that they count viewers, and they did it again. So it's they're adding in out of. I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this podcast, but they're adding in out of home viewers, which is going to increase it a little bit. Fox put it on Tubi. We don't know how many people would have watched it, streamed it on Tubi. I think when we see the final number, it's going to be obviously the biggest number, in TV this year. But I think it's going to be a really, really respectable number. I don't think that it's it has to beat an overtime game from just last year. So it's unlikely to do that. But a quick prediction, it's going to come out. I'll look really stupid, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's still over 120 million.
I had no idea what Tubi was until like 2 weeks ago when Fox started promoting it for the Super Bowl. And still don't really like. It's a streaming service, but I don't know. Is it like Netflix? I don't know. Whatever. I don't want to get into that. You don't think? See, I think it still has a chance for the simple fact of the Chiefs bringing in so many fringe people who don't care about football.
Yeah, how many of those fringe people stuck around to the end? There weren't too many Chiefs touchdowns where you have cutaways to Taylor Swift. That was amazing.
I think they showed her once during the whole broadcast.
The one thing that I do go back to is back when Dallas was good, the Cowboys, when they would win, it would bring in monster ratings, and when they would get blown out, it would bring in monster ratings because the number of people that hated the Cowboys. The Chiefs, they're not quite the same type of villains as the Cowboys, but there's a lot of anti-Chief behavior. So as you see Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce going down 24-0, are people reveling in that and want to see more of it? I don't think they're quite at that level yet, but that could also help the ratings a little bit.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think there's more than you think. And the Taylor Swift fans are deranged. They will watch the entire game just to see if there's a cutaway of her. That's what they're there for. They don't care about the score. They just want any cutaway. They want to see if Travis makes a catch. So I'm not saying they're gonna set the record. I just wouldn't be shocked if they do.
I'd be surprised if they set the record. I wouldn't be shocked. So whatever that nebulous level is, the number is going to be huge, though. It's going to be huge.
It will be huge for sure. I didn't watch any of the commercials, but that's what a lot of people watch for. I'm sure people listening right now want to know something about the commercials. So did you have favorites? What did you think of the commercials? Give my listeners something on the commercials, because I cannot.
Well, I didn't really have a favorite on the commercials.
Oh wow, that's not a good sign.
None of them really stood out to me. There was the one with David Beckham. This is what I love about the commercials. The one with David Beckham and Matt Damon. And I have no clue what they were selling, but I watched all 30 seconds of that commercial, and I thought it was I thought it was entertaining.
And you have no idea what it was for.
What was it for? Indeed, I have no idea.
That's funny.
It was for a puck to subscribe to the varsity. Yeah.
Good star power. I saw a couple of weeks ago on Twitter when Harry Met Sally, Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan.
Yeah, that was there was nothing new or unusual when that came in. Yeah,
but Brian Curtis, who covers media as well for The Ringer, made a good point. My first thought when I saw that commercial was, there's no mayo on the tables at Katz's Deli. And then, no. My thought was, nobody gets turkey at Katz's Deli. And Brian Curtis tweeted during the game, he's never seen anyone at Katz's Deli use mayo. And I said, yeah, no one orders turkey at Katz's Deli. So that was a bizarre. It was nice to see Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan reunite, but didn't make, if you're a New Yorker, like no one outside of New York understands what the hell I'm talking about. But Katz's Deli is this New York City institution, landmark place for corned beef and for pastrami. That's what it's for. And soup, matzo ball soup and stuff like that. The turkey and mayo is not, if you look at the Katz's at 12 o'clock today, you won't see anyone eating that.
Yeah, as you know, I'm from DC, grew up in DC. Like, I think I would be scared to order mayo at Katz's Deli.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the soup Nazi would yell at me.
A couple of things just to look ahead here. NBC has the Super Bowl next year. And then I think the big one for people who do what we do, and I think it'll trickle down to the sports fan. 2 years from now, so the year after next, ESPN and ABC finally get back in the Super Bowl business. They had the Super Bowl back in the Monday Night Football days. I remember, I think the last one maybe was Al and Boomer Esiason doing the Rams and Titans. Maybe is the last one.
Yeah, I think that was in Detroit, if I'm not mistaken.
But this new version, sort of the ESPN, ABC, Disney company with Joe and Troy get it in 2 years. And what I'm interested in is there is nothing ever that has been hyped like the Super Bowl whenever it's on any network. And there is no company in the world that can do hype like ESPN. So it will be fascinating to see what happens in 2 years when they finally get that Super Bowl.
Can I talk about next year real quick?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
NBC gets it next year. NBC has done it forever. However, a couple of days before the Super Bowl, they're the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics. So they're going to be covering the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics, which is a huge event for NBC. Then a couple of days later, they're going to be doing the Super Bowl. And then a week after that, they're going to have the NBA All-Star Game, which I know is not of the same level, but it still is a big level, and it'll be the very first one for NBC. So they're going to have this run of a week and a half of really again, people are going to laugh that I put the NBA All-Star Game in these massive events with the opening ceremony and the Super Bowl. But in terms of production and in terms of executive sort of talent needing to be there, it's going to be a wild a week and a half stretch for those guys.
I'm putting you on the spot because this is a year away, but do you know, I'm curious, how the opening ceremonies are how far before the Super Bowl? Like a couple of days?
It's a couple of days. Yeah. It's not.
So because I'm thinking about Tirico. What's going to go on here with Tirico during that time?
Tirico is the host of the Olympics, as you know.
Yep.
Zero chance is Mike Tirico going to give up broadcasting being the play-by-play on the Super Bowl. So I think that the corporate jet of and NBC's corporate jet is going to be going back and forth.
Right. That's usually a week where they want the play-by-play guy. You saw it this week. Like they want them in that host city all week doing a bunch of nonsense and promotional stuff.
Oh yeah, I can see a scenario where NBC hasn't decided this yet. I can see a scenario where he is going to do the opening ceremony because that's sort of like, hosting a parade. And that's where I think Tirico actually does a very good job with that. Tirico is one of my favorites. I think he's a
great
elite play-by-play person on
basketball,
on football as well. And so he'll do the opening ceremony and then immediately jet to the Super Bowl will be in San Francisco, in Santa Clara. And so he'll immediately jet there. I'm not sure where the NBA All-Star Game will fall for him, but if I'm NBC, the Olympics are certainly. Actually, I don't know if they're a priority over the NBA considering it's year one. So I spoke too quickly on that one.
So let me steal a bit from Andrew Marchand, our dear friend, and even though Tom has come out this week, he said it was my question where he said it on that conference call that he's around for 9 more years, and his agent has come out recently, said he's staying with Fox. So next year, NBC has the Super Bowl, which John just detailed, along with the Winter Olympics right around the same time. 2 years from now, it's ESPN, ABC. Well, it's on ABC, but it's ESPN production. And then 3 years from now is CBS, and then 4 years from now it'll roll back to Fox. So in 4 years, So that's 2029. Will that be Burkhardt and Brady in the booth for Fox?
Oh,
Calling
that's a
that Super
great.
Bowl?
I wasn't expecting you to take the question to 4 years from now. That's a great question. I'm not prepared for that one.
Where's Martian? We got to get him on the line. He can give us the Brady meter.
Yeah, his version of the Brady meter. By the way, we're
Yeah.
30 minutes in, and you finally mentioned Marchand. Thank you for giving me the 30 minutes for the Marchand free half hour.
Well, he was the one who was saying, every week, like whether Brady will be doing this next year or what, and how many. I think we've all gotten in on it, but that Super Bowl, the next Super Bowl for Brady is in 4 years, so we'll have to see.
All right, so in 4 years, here's what I'll say. I'll just point you to the Boston Globe columnist Chad Finn, who has been around Brady and covered not been around Brady, but covered Brady for the Boston Globe during his playing career. And when Tom Brady's agent came out and said that he was going to honor the contract, Chad Finn, I think he went on Deitch's podcast and said he still expects him to not do any more years after this year, and he I think he put it in print as well. I'm a naive sort. I take people at their word. The Fox executives expect him to be around. Brady says he wants to be around. He appears to be having fun. He's making $37 million a year to do it. I mean, could you? Does anybody have so much money that they're going to pass up calling a football game for half a year for $37 million? So I will say yes, he will be around in 4 years to do that Super Bowl.
All right, last one before I let you go. It was mentioned this past week to Goodell about the NFL having an out with their television contracts. What year is the out? Do you know?
Yeah, it's after the 2029 season, so it would be the 2030 Super Bowl.
How on earth can they not opt out with these streaming services?
Well, I think they're going to opt out. I think it's almost certain that they're going to opt out.
Right. Okay.
But let me answer that question. Why might they not? Is you said that everything is going so fast right now. So like, what happens if somebody buys Fox or a couple of the broadcast networks merge, and all of a sudden you don't have as many bidders that are out there? One red flag for the NFL, which is massively, massively successful, of course, for the in terms of media, is that right now they kind of have enough packages for the same number of bidders. And the reason the NBA was so successful in its media rights is that they had one more bidder than the number of packages. So it just drove the rights up. So why wouldn't you come out? Maybe Netflix decides, I don't want a Sunday night football package or the Sunday afternoon packages. And so that could be a reason there. I don't think I think it's certain that they're going to opt out. And I think it's certain that more bidders are going to come in there. But there is something that I called it a red flag. It should probably be more of a yellow flag or something that's out there. But that's just something to consider.
Yeah, it just seems with Netflix, Amazon, and Apple lurking, it would make no sense for the NFL to not opt out. But we'll see what happens. And like you said, who knows where networks will be in 4 years? It's like you said, it's moving so fast.
I mean, could you imagine Netflix getting NFL games 4 or 5 years ago, and actually bringing in the audiences that they did? That's crazy.
Well, that's why I think this is all realistic, because when you see what the audiences are the audience for Netflix on Christmas, Amazon Prime each year seems to be getting more and more viewers for Thursday night. Just seems inevitable with all that money they have that they'd want a piece of the pie.
Yeah, but then maybe they're getting the subscribers and they don't need as much content in order to get them in. So I mean, that's if you're Amazon, are you happy enough with Thursday Night Football? Because if you're an NFL subscriber, you gotta do Amazon Prime all the time. Why should I spend more to get a better package when they're already coming in to see my Thursday Night Football? What incrementally? How much more can you get?
All right. Well, at least we don't have to worry about it for 4 years. So that's good.
I have to
All
worry
right.
about it. That you just
Right.
define what I'm going to be writing about for the next 4 years.
Yeah. All right. So overall, Fox Super Bowl telecast was fine. Was
Yeah, it was
good.
fine.
Fine. Good.
I find it hard to actually put a grade to it just because like it was a
The
blowout
game
game.
stunk.
It's so hard, you know.
I agree.
So I
I
thought
agree.
one thing you didn't bring up, I was expecting you to
Yep.
bring up my social feeds
Oh, the score
were
bug.
furious to see the score bug.
Yeah. Here's how I know something's a disaster. When I don't tweet about something and I get people bombarding me with, what do you think of? What do you think of? What do you think of? So, I wasn't on Twitter maybe for the first 5 minutes of the game because I'm trying to get a feel for the game, hear Brady start, the game. So I didn't check Twitter for maybe 5-10 minutes. And then the first time I checked it into the game, it was just all people asking me about the score bug and ripping the score bug. It's just too big. It's just way too big. It was fine if you could shrink it, but it's too big.
Yeah, I didn't mind the square bug. The thing about square bugs to me is you get used to them eventually. So
Right. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But smaller is better.
Yeah, I could see where they would make it smaller. It was very minimalist, though. I mean, it was and it showed. Despite the fact that it was big, I still felt like I could see more of the screen. Like more the action on the field.
But here's what I don't understand. This may be hard to explain on an audio podcast or when you don't see the graphic, but like it would have like, it would say KC and the score in a monster font. And then next to it would be open space. And then it would be like the clock, I think. And then open space and then fill. But why not just kill the open space and shrink it? And then it's smaller. And I don't know. The score bug to me is someone saying, look how fancy I can get. Look at me, look at me, look at me. That's what the score bug. There's someone out there like, watch what I'm going to invent.
It happens every Super Bowl, every big event is an opportunity to just upgrade. They don't want.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
they don't want to have the same look for 30 years because that becomes, especially in TV, that just looks old and stale. So it's it is almost more of a marketing aspect.
Right. But it also shows you, and this has been my mantra for years, and this is what sports fans need to understand. The Super Bowl is not about the sports fan. The NFL, Fox, CBS, NBC, they don't care about the NFL fan when it comes to the Super Bowl. Because if they cared about the NFL fan, they wouldn't change the score bug for the final game of the season and the most important game of the season and cause an uproar about the scoreboard. But they're interested in the 70 million people who don't watch football that decide to swoop in to watch Taylor Swift and Lady Gaga and Kendrick Lamar. They don't give a shit about the person like you and me who are there every Sunday from September to January. And that's what people have to understand. But if you think about it logically, even take it outside of it, like this is your biggest day of the year. This is the last game of the year. Let's change it. It doesn't, that's ridiculous. Like no one would think that way in a normal setting, but they don't care about the sport fan who's watching the game.
So funny. Sorry. By the way, I've been a guest on enough podcasts. I know I'm supposed to jump in, but that was such an elite rant that I just wanted to let you go. Sorry. I appreciate it.
That's good. Then we'll cut that clip then for social. All right, John, I appreciate it, especially early on a Monday morning, and enjoy now. No NFL.
Well, my Terps are doing well in college basketball, so I'm gonna have stuff to watch.
Yep, March Madness will be here before you know it.
And Adley Rushing
John Ourand
at the plate, and it'll within like 2 months. I think when do pitchers and catchers report? Couple
I think
weeks.
This week.
Yeah.
I think this week.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, John Ourand, Puck and the Varsity Podcast. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Anytime, man.
All right, take it easy. All right, my many thanks for John Ourand joining me on Monday morning after the Super Bowl in this bonus edition of SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you are a subscriber to this podcast. Hit that subscribe button on any platform you're listening. Go into the archives, check out some past episodes, and leave a review on Apple as well. All right, we'll see you later in the week for our regular Thursday edition. Hope you enjoyed this one. Stay safe and take care.